I know what you're thinking. 32. You are so funny, handsome, and wise. So why are you still here, reviewing fanfiction for a canceled show? That's a good question, viewer. And the answer is simple.
My work is not yet complete.
Before I can retire, I must review my favorite fanfiction, Piercing the Heavens. And to do that, I need to review its predecessors. A while back, I made a video on Head in the Clouds, and if you haven't seen it or have completely forgotten about it, I would recommend watching it, as this review probably won't make much sense without context. Now, I actually had the pleasure of meeting the author, Calm Wind, at a few conventions, and I was able to ask him about the sequel, Flying Sky High. To my surprise, he said that he was very close to never writing it in the first place. He wasn't very satisfied with the original, and confessed that the turbulent final act was a result of him being bored, and just like the writers of the new Star Wars trilogy, he had no grand plan in place. However, everything changed when he came across some folks who were running a Soarin fanfiction contest. Are you a hardcore shipper? Do you want to flex your writing skills? Then enter our Contest of Champions and earn your place in history. And Calm Wind was like, hey, did you say something about flexing? That's my favorite muscle-related activity. Sign me up. So a sequel was back on the menu, but it would be no easy feat. He had to write a story that would be a crowd-pleasing romance, make sense of the messy plot threads he set up, and be finished before a fast-approaching deadline. Yikes. So let's see how he did. A few months after their last adventure, Rainbow Dash and Soarin are in a long-distance relationship, and neither are super jazzed about it. When Rainbow hears that Soarin is to attend the annual Grand Galloping Gala, she decides to use the magic of nepotism to snag herself a ticket. Meanwhile, Soarin is feeling pretty good for a guy who was almost murdered. Ever since he was saved by Celestia's mysterious necromancy, Soarin's been acting like a guy who has a chronic addiction to energy drinks. Not only is he abnormally fast, he's also uncomfortably energetic. If you understood that reference, be sure to leave a comment down below so I know who all the OGs are. He also notices that his good friend Spitfire is down in the dumps. As it turns out, she's feeling a little lonely, as if she had spent the last hour browsing Facebook, learning that all of her high school friends are getting married and traveling the world, being happy, stupid pricks. So they have a nice bro talk about it. In a large scheme of things, scenes like this aren't super important, but they're one of my favorite things about Calm Wind's stories. The quiet, casual moments. I'm not gonna say that his dialogue should win awards or should be printed on t-shirts, but there's an air of authenticity to it that I find oddly absorbing. In fact, there's another story he wrote called The Flaws of Perfection, and it's by far the least Calm Wind story in existence. There's no action, no Wonderbolts, no crazy hijinks, and it's not even a ship fic. In the story, Rarity's feeling stressed about an upcoming show and goes to Fancy Pants for some wisdom, only to discover that a pony, who she thought had it all figured out, was having similar troubles. Wait, are you saying that you place impossible standards on yourself, leaving you with an inescapable feeling of mediocrity? Me too. Let's get drunk and talk trash about all the ponies we hate. And that's basically the whole story, and it's honestly one of my favorites. Seeing two characters just being real and lifting each other up? Now that's some feel-good stuff right there. If anything, it highlights one of Calm Wind's strengths as a writer. The ability to milk the emotions out of any scene. Also, his drunk Rarity is pretty legit, not gonna lie. Anyway, back to Flying Sky High. The night of the Grand Galloping Gala has arrived. Rainbow shows up, and she can't seem to find her waifu anywhere. But then she finds him 5 minutes later. Whew, really had me going there for a second. Following that, they have a wonderful evening, filled with flying, dancing, and romance. Yep, it's a ship fic, alright. So let's get to the meat of this shepherd's pie, the romance. It's pretty good. In Calm Wind's universe, Rainbow and Soarin are characters that complement each other. Dash is talented and has grand ambitions, but lacks in discipline. In Soarin, she sees someone who will inspire and challenge her to be better. On the flip side, Soarin is a skilled athlete that has been worn down by the celebrity lifestyle. In Rainbow, he sees someone who is authentic and reminds him of what truly matters. They share a love for flying, and they are both incredibly driven. Their dynamic is fun, flirty, and refreshingly straightforward, which is helped by the fact that they are out of the will they won't they phase from Head in the Clouds. By fanfiction standards, the romance is really well done. Anyway, after their magical evening, they decide to follow that up with a magical breakfast. Soarin meets a young fan, Rainbow thinks it's the cutest thing ever, and then Soarin tops it all off by giving her nutritional advice. See, now this is another aspect of Calmwind's writing that I find adorably quirky. He is a huge fitness buff and lives by the phrase, write what you know. If a character does a workout, you will hear about it. If someone has gotten more buff, you bet your sweet glutes that he will give you the juicy details. Given how much Calmwind glorifies the act of working out, it makes me wonder if he's secretly funded by Big Fitness in order to sell gym memberships to fanfiction reading nerds like myself. Back on track. Soarin has an idea. What if he brought Rainbow with him to work one day? Spitfire is hesitant because civilians aren't allowed on the premises. But since she did save Soarin's soul, she decides to make an exception. So she pairs her up with Squad 3. First, there's Firestreak, who's 100% gentleman, and who I imagine speaks with a posh British accent. Then, there's his brother Lightning Streak, who's more like a horny Michelangelo? Yeah, I'll go with that. Next, there's Surprise, who is Pinkie Pie with wings. Finally, there's Mistyfly, a deaf pony who is a cinnamon roll, too good for this world, too pure. Together they show Rainbow around, at least until the weekly sparring session, where Soarin is set to fight his rival, Rapid Fire. Upon writing this review, I realized that I didn't talk a lot about Rapid Fire in my Head in the Clouds video, outside of mentioning his undiluted douchebagginess. But that's probably because he's the second most unpleasant character in this entire trilogy. Not because he's evil, but because he's one of those too close to home kind of evils. He's the narcissistic slimeball celebrity creep who thinks he can get away with anything. Also, he's incredibly rude to his teammates, and the only reason he hasn't been kicked off the squad is because his mommy and daddy are super wealthy donors. I guess Rainbow isn't the only character to discover the magic of nepotism. So anyway, Soarin and Rapid Fire are having their fight. Then Rapid Fire loses his temper and straight up tries to murder Soarin. He's defeated and is put under house arrest. Well, we won't be seeing him again. But the next day, just as Sword and Rainbow Dash are finishing up their magical extended date, Rapid Fire breaks out of custody and reveals that he's joined up with the nefarious Shadowbolts, the same pricks that try to destroy Ponyville with a giant tornado. As if on cue, he receives some backup by their leading members. First, there is Descent, the honorable warrior type, with a grudge against Soarin for almost blowing him up a few months ago. Then there's Starry, who's just kind of there. Finally, there's Nightshade, who is just a colorful rainbow of evil. Seriously, she's sadistic, power-hungry, and abusive to friends and foes alike. If Rapid Fire is Draco Malfoy, then Nightshade is Bellatrix Lestrange. She's a character designed in a lab for the sole purpose of making your skin crawl. So now it's time for a big old fight. Again! Just like in the previous story, the author decides that this relatively chill slice-of-life romance is now an action movie. The fight is pretty brutal, as the Shadowbolts have brought power crystals with them that give them superpowers. This fight goes on for, hold up, let me just check, 3 chapters, and Calmwind milks it for all it's worth. The emotional highlight for me is when Spitfire is possessed and has a super dramatic brawl with Soarin. But to make a long story short, Luna and her guards eventually show up, but not before Soarin and Rainbow are captured by Shadowbolts. They are taken to their base of operations and are given just a giant dump truck of exposition. Hey, I'm Descent, and me and my buddies Starry and Nightshade grew up on the streets, and we were taken in by Shadowbolts, which are like a rogue spin-off of the Wonderbolts that complete contracts for money. Anyway, a while back, a mysterious benefactor named Kane Ost gave us a bunch of power crystals to destroy Ponyville and displace the elements of harmony. Who is this Kane Ost guy, and what is his deal? I don't know, and I'm not sure if the author does either. Anyway, this guy paid us to deliver Soarin to him. Okay, but why? Don't interrupt. Anyway, these crystals give you superpowers at the cost of your own sanity. And Nightshade was always a little messed up, but after she got addicted to them, she's been about as subtle as a great white shark with rabies. Also, Starry and I are leaving, because we don't like to take orders from crazy people. And also, I'm letting you go because you seem like decent folk. This is a lot to take in. Yeah, well, the author has a deadline to meet, so we gotta wrap this shit up real quick. Let's go, people! So, Rainbow and Soarin sneak their way out, but not before being caught again. All looks lost, but then Fleetfoot is like,
on your left.
and all the Wonderbolts have come for the rescue. Time for another battle. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that all of the choreography was actually plagiarized?
The last 3 chapters of Flying Sky High were absurdly rushed because I needed to get them done for a contest, and I needed to get them done so fast that not only did I phone in half the writing, but I also choreographed almost every single fight directly from the manga of Dragon Ball Z.
Alright, you heard it here, folks. I'm not making this up.
But, are you gonna rewrite it then?
No.
No?
Anyway, Nightshade and Soarin are having their climactic battle. Soarin powers up, Nightshade consumes some crystals, things get heated, but then she overdoses and blows up. The rest of the Shadowbolts, bolt out of there, and the day is saved. They're on some post-credit shipping fuel, and that's a wrap. All 19 chapters. Sorry, I mean 18. Why did I say 19? That was weird. In my review of Head in the Clouds, I remarked that it was like a tasty yet sloppily made sandwich, and that metaphor also applies to Flying Sky High. The romance is appealing, the world building is nice, and the emotions hit hard. I'm still not a fan of how it veers its tone halfway through, but at least I was able to be ready for it this time. There's not a lot of character development, but I did appreciate the little we did get. I like how we learn a little bit more about the villains, even if it was delivered in a rushed fashion. However, I was disappointed by how few answers we get about the central mysteries. What happened to Celestia? What's Discord's role in all this? Who's paying the Shadowbolts and why? What's the deal with these crystals? And what is going on with Soarin? Having already read the sequel, Flying Sky High feels more like a pilot episode for Piercing the Heavens than its own satisfying standalone story. Many characters are introduced but are not explored in depth, and many questions are raised but not answered. As a result, it doesn't have a strong sense of identity. In conclusion, Flying Sky High is janky, but it also managed to win that contest. So, what's the lesson here? Easy. If you want to win it all, steal it from Dragon Ball.